So the NBA draft is over. And now that we've gotten on the other side of this, we're not going to necessarily talk about the winners and losers of the draft. That's going to be in a separate video. But we're going to talk about 3 teams to watch now that we know what they've done and what their plans are. And those 3 particular teams are the Chicago Bulls, my team, shout out till I die, Portland Trailblazers, and the Sacramento Kings. Let's get into it. Right now, if you have been watching, the Portland Trailblazers have been on the clock since the season ended. Were they going to trade the number 3 pick? Were they going to do something to get Dame some help? What were they really going to do? Now, the one thing I will say is that there are some interesting free agents that they could possibly make some moves for. However, the key thing that was to be noted is Dame said he wasn't going to be a part of any rebuilding situation. That was just not his interest. And it comes to find out in some particular reports that credibly noted that the reports of him having some type of say in the draft just weren't really true. So with that being the case, why did Portland still go ahead and draft Scoot, a 6'2" guard who doesn't help Dame any more than CJ or Simons did? In fact, if you look at the heights, Simons, Dame, and Scoot are 6'2", 6'3", respectively. That's not really going to do it for a starting lineup. Jeremy Grant, at this point, I don't believe has been re-signed or extended. And Nurkic has been mid most of his career if he hasn't been injured. Where are we going? So with all of those particular questions, that's the biggest thing. You drafted this young kid. You probably should rebuild with him and Simons. And Dame doesn't want to be a part of the rebuild. While it seems as if they are shutting down trade talks, I don't know if they got the hint or maybe Dame didn't get the hint, but somebody somewhere is just not communicating because everything Portland is looking at is staging themselves for a rebuild. And it would be the smartest thing for them, if I'm being honest. They got Simons, who was respectfully 21, 22 points a game. They have a dog in a point guard they just acquired in Scoot. Again, heck of a talent. I think he's going to be a stud in this league eventually. I just don't think he's going to be out the gate playing alongside with Dame. I don't see that working. And F. Shaden Sharp, I mean, believe Buddy jumps out the gym. His game is going to develop. Portland is leaning toward going younger, and Dame has just been there along for the ride saying, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Dame, I don't know if you know, but after a while, you got to once they show you who they are, you have to believe them. They love you. You've been there. It's the Blazers. Portland, no one really wants to come. They're not going to build around you. So this is one of those things. So again, as it comes to us as fans, as we look at it, expect them to make some moves. Something's going to shake. Because if Dame rolls into this season again, looking like that, I expect Dame, if he's not traded this offseason, to be traded by the All-Star break. By the trade deadline, I don't think Dame's going to be in a Portland jersey. No, I don't see it happening because they're not in contention. They're not a contending team as constructed, and they would have to overhaul a lot for them to even be considered a top 2-3 team in the West. It's just not going to happen. Dame is going to be on the move. It's all about, I think this is more of a pride thing. It's more of a, you're going to break before I break. You're just going to have to sit me out. You're going to have to really look like that because you had the opportunity to build around me. You didn't. You're going to have to make that move. And everyone's going to know you made that move. And from what I hear about Dame, someone as solid as he is, I respect his position. I just don't think you play chicken with billionaires. Or team owners, rather. Doesn't matter how much they were. Team, I don't think you do that. But moving on from that is my team, the Chicago Bulls. And I have to say this. We have been mid for majority of my life. I got to see Michael Jordan as a youngin. I got to see, the vibe and feel of that era and that run. But again, I was young. In fact, I was so young at that point that I remember watching him on TV, championships 3 through 6. I remember watching those games. I remember being present for those games. But I really came up in the Kobe era when I really started to appreciate basketball a little more and really dive into it. So for the most part, most of my life, we have been mid. It just is what it is. And now when we're finally on the cusp of having a really good team, it seems as if the fan base and even some others who have been reporting on it are kind of pressing the organization to do something. It's almost like the little meme with the stick. It's like, you're going to do something, going to do something. Well, AK kind of addressed those things. AK is Arturas Karnisovas, for those who don't know, GM for the Chicago Bulls. And he kind of addressed it. And in so many ways, he's pretty much telling you, shut up and wait. Shut up and look at what I do. He said, you all have seen it. And one particular quote, I'm paraphrasing at this point, but he's just watch the next week. So to me, he knows what has to happen. He's also been given the green light to go into the luxury tax, which if you are Chicago Bulls faithful, you know that that's something we haven't really done. So to even have that information available is one of those things that was like, yo, okay, finally. And for the most part, if you're going to compete for a championship, you're going to have to flirt with playing a little more. You're going to be in a luxury tax. It just is what it is. Very few teams that are contending right now are not in that luxury tax situation. Very few teams, and the ones that have made it work. I mean, you found that lightning in the bottle. But for the most part, and for at least the last 10 years, it's been spend money to get what you want. And so, AK has been given the green light to spend a little to get what we need. And if you really are looking at the Chicago Bulls, they're not that far away. I'm not saying they're not so far away from a chip, because I do think that other teams who are more aggressive in making moves really make that a very daunting thing. But as far as the Eastern Conference is concerned, they're not that far away from being a top 4 team in the East to compete for that opportunity to make a finals. I don't think they are. And that's not just about me representing my team. If you look at the standings, the Chicago Bulls ranked we were 40 and 42. We were 7 games out of 4th place. Or 5th place. Realistically, that's not a lot. We were the 10th seed, by the way. So 7 games separating the 10th seed and the 5th seed is not a lot. In fact, if you really look at this NBA, this is the highest level of parity we've seen in a very long time. And there are no 60-win teams. And there are 14 teams between the 40-win and 50-win mark on both sides of the conference. And so across the league, it's a lot of teams. And everyone has that 1 or 2 games where you say, oh, this player was injured, this wasn't there, what if this happened, right? And sometimes it's just us grasping for straws. But if you've been watching the Chicago Bulls, sometimes you're like, no, we've gotten a lot of bad calls late that have cost us some really close games. Last season, I can remember about 2 specifically. We actually live call every Bulls game on the Windy City Breeze. Go check that out, by the way. Link will be in the bio or the description of this video. Yeah, it can go either way. So with all that being said, the Chicago Bulls will be making some moves. Now, it may not necessarily be in the way of a trade. It could be in the way of actually acquiring some of the names in free agency. And there are 3 names that I actually think would be really good for us to go after if you are a Chicago Bulls fan. And that's D'Angelo Russell, because of his high shooting percentage from 3, his 17 points a game, and the fact that he's an unrestricted free agent who's already come off a massive contract. I don't believe he's going to get a max contract. He's not worth $100 million over 4 at all at this point. And, maybe he rebuilds it. He's young. Maybe he gets back up to that point. But from what we've seen and how he's been able to show up on some of these teams, absolutely not. Another name was actually Dennis Schroeder, who it's ironic I'm naming all the point guards on the Lakers at this point, right? Who has been with Billy Donovan, has seen his system, can run the point. It can be on a prove-it deal. He's also someone who is not going to garner that much of a hit when it comes to actually acquiring him. But again, it helps us because we could see our team with the legit point guard. I love Patrick Beverley. He didn't do it for the Chicago Bulls. He's good he's a good vocal leader. He's definitely going to get in your behind. I like that part. I like the fact that he's going to sit there and call people out, hold people accountable. But from a skill set level, there's a lot more to be desired from his peers. I mean, sure, if I go against Patrick Beverley right now, he's going to drop 40 on me. And he's an NBA player, right? I'm not going to sit there and challenge that. But against some of his peers, there's some things that he could work on, like i.e. shooting and stuff like that. So there's a lot to be desired there. But again, we need to see it. And lastly, Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is being positioned with a hometown discount for the Clippers, but I could see him actually wanting to go to a team and be Russ. Now, I know people are going to say, well, Russ can't shoot threes. I'm going to sit there and tell you this. Russ may not be able to shoot as well as some of the other point guards, but if you look at what Russ does for a team, what he does all the way around, his complete game, when you let Russ be Russ, Russ has been on teams with other dominant scorers, and they've excelled. Paul George had one of his best seasons with Russell Westbrook. KD, one of his best seasons ever with Russell Westbrook. James Harden with Russell Westbrook. Zach LaVine could have a very similar result with Russ. Oh, by the way, Bradley Beal with Russ. That worked out a little bit. It was small sample size, but you got to see them try to figure it out, and then all of a sudden they go on a nice little run. They make a threat for the playoffs and stuff like that. We've seen Russ. If you just let Russ be Russ, cook. You gotta let Russ cook, and I can absolutely see him doing that in Chicago. At that point, I don't need Russ to shoot a lot of threes because he brings so much attention to how he runs the floor and stuff like that. It's just one of those things that I would love to see. I'm a huge Westbrook fan. I am a Westbrook fan when you allow Russ to be Russ, and you really just you focus on what he does well in that regard. A lot of people talk about his shooting, and he has some bad shooting takes. I'm not gonna lie. But if you look at some of that season where everyone was sitting there clipping up all the times he hit the side of the backboard, Steph Curry shot 42%. He shot better than Steph Curry in that particular season. And you might say, well, Steph takes a lot of threes. Ain't nobody tell Steph to take all them threes. The shots is the shots. You put the shot up. I'm not going to fault you for it, but ain't nobody tell you that if that's Steph, if that's a difficult shot, you shouldn't have shot it. Russ shot better than him that season. But no one talks about that. So that's something to put into context, in perspective, if you're someone who is a Chicago Bulls fan. It is, unfortunately, a gift and a curse to be a Chicago Bulls fan. We come with this pedigree of having a winning culture, or this expectation of a winning culture, but we haven't won in so long. And it's a tough space to be in. But I really think the Chicago Bulls are going to shake some stuff up, but I want to hear your thoughts on it. Who do you think they go after? As you notice, I didn't mention any Zach LaVine trades because I don't believe that they're going to trade Zach LaVine, and I think that would be the dumbest thing for them to do. It'd be the dumbest thing for them to do. You want to trade DeMar? Fine. I can see that working out. Trading Zach LaVine is stupid. Not even going to entertain it. Not even going to entertain it. If I see Boston fans saying, we'll trade for Zach LaVine. You trade Jason Tatum. I see Knicks fans saying, we're trading for Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine don't want to go there. Campus already came out and said he don't want to go there. In New York fans, R.J. Barrett is not going to be the next Zach LaVine. R.J. Barrett is barely, like, I see why you would say he's gotten a little better every time, but guess what? Nah. R.J. Barrett is going to be the next Chris Middleton. Yeah, I said it. Chris Middleton. I don't see him getting better than that. And by the way, Chris Middleton is a free agent. So if anyone wants to look at a player who got better every season for the most part and then learned how to play a good role next to a dominant freak of nature, it's Chris Middleton. And guess what? R.J. Barrett's going to be a good player to play next to another freak of nature. He's not someone who's going to lead a team. Sorry to say it. New York fans sometimes can be the worst. Anyway. Moving on, as you can say, the Chicago-New York rivalry runs deep. Y'all just going to have to get with that. But the last thing I want to mention, and this is something that's actually come to mind, and Brian Windhorst did his whole "what are they thinking" type thing. Like, what's going on there? I love when he does it for some odd reason. He needs to go ahead and just make a whole segment out of it. I think he does have one. Draymond Green in the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings could absolutely pose a threat. I had it as Dallas initially because he likes that. He likes Mark Cuban. He has a good relationship with Mark Cuban. He's had a good relationship with Luka. He likes Kai. I have seen that working out, and I had him, if any team was going to be a threat, going there. I didn't even think remotely about Sacramento Kings. Now, I tell you why this may work, and I'm going to tell you why this is something to be concerned about. Draymond Green, for what he's done for Golden State Warriors, is absolutely a $100 million player. He's a $25 million a year over player for the next 4 years, for sure. The simple fact that they paid Jordan Poole all that money and did not pay Draymond Green what I felt he was worth was a disrespect in itself. And I think that did lead to some tension there. And the good thing about it is they corrected that right away. I mean, for him to have gotten paid one season and then be gone the next, they corrected it, but it may be too little too late, because now there is still in a situation where they may not be able to pay Draymond what the Kings could pay Draymond. Now, why would he go to the Kings? Mike Brown. Mike Brown was one of those people who were there. He was considered the person that Draymond would go to kind of to get some perspective, and one of the people that Steve Kerr would go to reel him back in. Mike Brown and Draymond Green have a really close relationship. The Sacramento Kings brass and the Golden State brass are actually really good. They have a really good relationship. A lot of the executives and people who worked at one organization have actually worked at the other. So while it is a game in which they compete and they compete hard and it's feisty and stuff like that, it's one of those things where it's almost like two ambitious brothers going at each other. That's how you can look at that relationship. And they've taken some people from the Golden State Warriors. Draymond Green could be the next person they go after, and it does something for Draymond that I don't think the Golden State Warriors can do. What do I mean by that? Draymond right now for his career, 4 rings, DPOY. I mean, you can't sit there. He's a Hall of Famer for sure. He's a Hall of Famer, right? The stats themselves. He's one of those players where the stats don't show the impact of what he brought to that team, but everyone watched that run. You know, he's a guy. He's one of those guys that made that team go. He's one of the people that buckled down that defense, because Steph ain't locking down a bunch of people. He's that engine that makes that go. The coach has said it. The players have said it. You know what it is when Draymond's there. And you've seen him put his fingerprints on games and impose his will on games and turn the entire thing around. I look at the Celtics finals with the Warriors, and Steph was cooking the entire time. But the moment Draymond got his head out of his behind and started to really just be Draymond, and in conjunction with Steph doing what he was doing, that's when the series was over. Before then, you was like, oh man, I think they might do it. I think that. Nope. As soon as Draymond got himself together, it was a wrap. And we talk about them winning their 4th chip. Draymond is absolutely that type of player. Now, Kings. The Kings are one piece away. Draymond could absolutely be that piece. You talk about the team that they've built, how they've built it, the amount, the look. If you look at how the game is played, the pace of play, and things of that nature. If you want someone who could come in and immediately not only know your system but plug in and be impactful, it's Draymond. In fact, I think Draymond is one of the only players at his position who could come to that team and have immediate impact. Not only because they run a very similar, if not the same system, but they have a very similar structure and setup. That would help Sabonis so much. It would help De'Aaron Fox so much. It would help, I forget some of the other shoes I have to, but it would help them so much. And then to have an extension of Mike Brown would be ridiculous. It's one of those things where not only could he come help the Kings get to their first championship, or get there first. I don't believe the Kings have a championship. If they do, forgive me in the comments. I know you smoke me if I don't, but I don't believe they do. I don't know if they've ever been to a finals. But if Draymond can go and replicate that type of success, even if it's for 1 or 2 seasons, it would be well worth the money that they would pay him. Because then he could absolutely help develop, mentor those guys, develop and mentor Sabonis, who they had a nice feisty rivalry. I thought, but despite how it ended and all the stepped on his chest, stuff like that, I think that there's a lot of mutual respect there from a competitive standpoint, to the point where, like, hey, yeah, we fought, we did everything like that, but now we're in the same team. I can see that working. Think about a Kobe Bryant, Matt Barnes type thing. Obviously not the same skill sets, but anyway, like, I can see that working. Even the Kobe Bryant, Ryan Artest type thing. If you look at Ryan Artest has gone at Kobe a couple times. He's been trying to fight him a couple times, and all of a sudden he's on the Lakers and win a championship. Like, I can see that type of relationship happening there, and Mike Brown has evolved as a coach so much. I would be worried about that. In fact, the Sacramento Kings making a push for Draymond not having to actually move far, I mean, it would work so well it will work so well. And for a team that you can say he could probably extend his run and playing high level basketball, a younger team like the Kings could help. Now, would that be the storybook ending that he wants? Probably not. I think he wants to finish what he started in Golden State. I think that's a real pull. But I think the enticement is you could still end your career as one of the greatest ever and one of the greatest one of the greatest defenders. And people recognize you for what you've done individually and not just along Steph. And I think that's just as enticing. But I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear what you all think when it comes to this. I know this was a lot longer video than I posted on this channel before, but it's just some things that I wanted to get out. This is P.kidd Talks NBA, so that obviously we're going to talk about all three teams, but give me your thoughts on this. Give me what you think the Bulls should do, bam, what you think the Portland Trailblazers do. I'm kind of actually tired of talking about them. And now, what do you think the Sacramento Kings do? In fact, don't even think about the Sacramento Kings. What do you think Draymond does? Do you think it's a surefire thing that he goes back to Golden State? I don't think so. I think that there's a real chance that Sacramento can land him. I'm not saying he will, but I'm saying it's something to look for because, I mean, he could do something that not even KD has done yet. He could do something potentially with another team that not even Steph has done yet. Or Steph may not ever do. Steph may never be in a situation to do that. But the narratives around it, how impactful that would be. But give me your thoughts, man. Whether it's love, whether it's hate, I'll be in the comments with you. Till next time. Peace.